I mean, for them to be 5-3 right now with a rookie quarterback that I don't think anybody else wanted. You think about how many teams passed up Bo Nix. I mean, nobody else was going to draft him. And here, Bo Nix has started every game, and they're 5-3.
You're tuned in to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, guiding your gridiron journey, none other than your host, former NFL lineman, Ross Tucker.
Oh, yeah, it is. But it's not just any Ross Tucker Football Podcast. It is a Power Rankings Tuesday presented by DraftKings. That means it's the day where I give you my thoughts on where every single team in the NFL currently resides. And again, remember, how I have these teams stacked up is my belief, my perception of what would happen in a 5-game series, 7-game series in either my backyard or Wichita, Kansas, because it's just a nondescript place in the middle of the country. Love those of you that check me out on social media at Ross Tucker NFL, so you always know what I'm up to. And then at Ross Tucker Pod is number one, the best way to see the best clips from all the shows, right? Even money for betting. By the way, up 19 units this week, which was incredible. Or the College Draft Podcast. Emery's fantastic. Fantasy Feast. Loving our new guy, John Daigle. You got to give him a shot if you haven't so far. So anyway, at Ross Tucker Pod is where you see the best clips from each of the shows. And if you engage with that handle, at Ross Tucker Pod, you have a great chance to be the spread the word winner via social media. Or you can just take advantage of any of our sponsors and then email me, ross@rosstucker.com. Absolutely love sending you guys these signed press passes. It's like a keepsake that nobody else you know will ever have. And then, of course, the YouTube shout out, youtube.com/RossTuckerNFL. Love getting the Patreons as well. Patreon.com/RT Media. It's big show time.
The Big Show.
All right, Ross. Russell Wilson, he continues to surprise in Pittsburgh. The Steelers, they're now 6-2 following a 26-18 win over the Giants.
And Mike Tomlin is loving every second of it. The Monday Night Football recap is presented by Labatt Blue Light. Drink those with your friends. Live life to the power of we. I did have one last night. Always enjoy responsibly. Beer, Labatt USA, Buffalo, New York. It was a field goal fest early on in this game. And a couple of things that were interesting, right? Number one, Justin Fields was the inactive number 3 quarterback for the Steelers. Kyle Allen was the backup because I guess Fields tweaked a hamstring in practice. That's number one. Number two, just in terms of things moving forward or things that I take away from the game, man, Broderick Jones, the right tackle, number 77 for the Steelers, he is a liability. He is a problem. Run game, pass game, he is really struggling. They drafted him high. They believe in the ability, but I'm not sure he's going to get there, to be honest with you. I mean, sometimes, though, if these offensive linemen, you just leave them in there, they eventually figure it out. But, boy, he was really hurting them last night. You know, both teams almost scored touchdowns in the first half. Neighbors couldn't get 2 feet down. Pickens, I got to be honest with you, Jack, I didn't know that rule. Did you know that rule?
I did not know that rule.
So George Pickens got his right foot down twice, and it looked like a touchdown by everybody that watched it. But then you looked, and the left foot never got down. They should really change that rule, because if you get 2 feet down, even if it's the same foot twice, that should be a reception. I mean, think about, like, theoretically you could hop for 30 yards and on one leg and it doesn't count as a catch. Like, what are we even doing here, right? Like anything else in life, if you take it to the extremes, you can see how silly it could be. Anyway, wasn't a touchdown. The game really turned early in the second half on a punt return touchdown by Calvin Austin. You know, what's wild about it is that they could have easily called roughing the kicker on one of the Steelers hitting the punter. Now, depending on the angle, the first angle looked terrible. It looked like he took him out. The second angle, it looked like he actually almost went in between the punter's legs. At any rate, the officiating guru guy, Russell York for the league, thought that maybe they could have called it. They didn't. And then after that, the Steelers kind of took over for a while there. They were up by a touchdown. Then Russell Wilson was throwing some unbelievable throws. Touchdown pass to Calvin Austin, a great throw on the sideline to George Pickens. Najee Harris had a big night. I mean, against a good Giants defense, I thought that was really a step up for the Steelers offensively. Meanwhile, for the Giants, Daniel Jones, I thought, made some nice throws, but still takes too many sacks. I still do not care for his pocket presence at all. Not a bad game, though. I think he and Slayton and Tyrone Tracy, who we talked about a lot on the Fantasy Feast podcast this summer, they all helped to make a valiant comeback. Ultimately, not enough. TJ Watt gets a strip sack and recovers the fumble late. Because of course he does. Because that's what he does every game ever. Even when you say TJ Watt hasn't done much so far in this game, it's like he saves it for the end. It's truly impressive. And it's a big reason why the Steelers won the game yet again. 6-2 for the Steelers with the tough part of their schedule coming up. Let's get to the power rankings. Actually, Jack, before we get to the rankings, I want to let everybody know about my number one ranked wireless dealer. That is Mint Mobile. Unbelievable that you can get premium wireless for $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan. I know. You don't feel like switching. You've had the same wireless provider forever. I get all these things. Do the math on how much you're saving over time. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/RTFP. That's mintmobile.com/RTFP. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/RTFP. $45 upfront payment required. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. Let's talk about my friends from Smirnoff, the world's #1 vodka and an official vodka partner of the NFL. I love this. Smirnoff is giving fans in select areas of the country, like maybe where you live, a chance to win the ultimate game day experience, from tickets to sideline passes and much more. All you have to do is go to gamedays.com until November 15th to enter for your chance to win. Smirnoff, we do game days. Please drink responsibly. Smirnoff number 21 vodka, distilled from grain, 40% alcohol by volume. The Smirnoff Company, New York, New York. Please do not share with anyone under legal drinking age. No purchase necessary. 21 plus. Ends 11/15/24. See rules at website for participating area and other important details. Sponsored by Diageo Americas Incorporated, New York, New York. We do GameDays.com.
It's time for the all-important Power Rankings. The worst team in the history of the NFL is...
All right, Ross, before we get into the power rankings, a little bit of an elephant in the room. This is the most dressed up I've ever seen you for a show. What is the occasion? Is it just because I'm that great?
Well, so first of all, my sport coat is actually hanging right over there. We're recording this even a little bit earlier than usual. I'm giving I guess like a TED Talk. I have a speaking engagement this morning for the Hershey Company, which is only like 15, 20 minutes from my house. So I love those, by the way. I love doing speaking engagements. It's like the closest thing to playing. Obviously, calling a game is awesome, but when you're doing a speaking engagement, the people are right there in person. You know what I mean? Like they're staring at you. When you're doing a game on TV, you're just like looking at a camera, or you're just looking at the field, So looking forward to it. By the way, programming note, because of that, we will record and post Even Money podcast a little bit later than we usually do. Not that much later, a couple hours later than we usually do because of this speaking engagement this morning. But good opportunity and pretty cool. I mean, Hershey's a huge company, so pretty cool to have a chance to talk to them company-wide. I'm looking forward to it.
All right, we're going to start our power rankings with the Carolina Panthers at 32.
By the way, I think they want me to talk about like leadership and high performing teams. And my whole PowerPoint is why the Take Five bar is the greatest candy bar of all time. So this might not be quite the speech they're looking for. This will be interesting. The Carolina Panthers, yeah, they're bad. They're bad. Even Sean Payton says they're bad. I would imagine they trade a receiver this week, whether that's Thielen or Deontay Johnson, maybe both. They are very much sellers, and I would imagine very much probably in the quarterback market again.
31st is the Tennessee Titans.
We're at that point in the season, Jack, and that point in the power rankings where you start to see the teams that it just feels like they're going to be out of it the entire rest of the year, which to me is always kind of sad because there's a lot of football to be left to play, and teams can improve. I hope these teams, like the Titans, don't look at it like they're out of it. I also hope they put Will Levis back in for a while so that we can all make sure Will Levis isn't improving, isn't the guy, and then the Titans will probably be in the quarterback market again.
30th is the New Orleans Saints.
So the good news for the Saints is that it looks like they are going to get Derek Carr back this week potentially, which would obviously be gigantic. The other good news is they're playing the Panthers. So interestingly, Jack, that would be my NFL game for CBS, Saints Panthers. If I was doing an NFL game this week, my crew is the sixth crew, Tom McCarthy, Jay Fieldy, they are. But I am on the college side this week for Air Force at Army. So I will not be doing an NFL game.
29th is the New England Patriots.
They were last for the last month or so, but that was a super impressive win to get it over a Jets team that you thought had a chance to start a run, you thought would be desperate for a win. Evidently, not desperate enough, not as desperate as the Patriots. Just a nice win. Jacoby Brissett coming off the bench, and really huge for Gerard Mayo coming off the conversation about calling his team soft.
How the mighty have fallen. The Jets, they're 28th.
Wow. You know, I kept kind of giving them the benefit of the doubt, even while they were amidst this horrific 5-game losing streak. I kept saying, well, when they get this guy, or when they do this, or when they get that guy, or a little more time. Nope. This is just who they are. They're just a bad team. And I think things had the potential to really get ugly there in New York the rest of the year.
27th is the Las Vegas Raiders.
The Raiders. Listen, the Raiders at least put forth a credible effort against the number one team in the power rankings, and they were right there with them pretty much the entire game. So they're not like some of these other teams that are seemingly terrible. The Raiders, you feel like at least will give you a competitive outing.
Jacksonville Jaguars, they're 26th.
Yeah, I guess they dropped a couple spots after that loss. It's kind of crazy to think the Jaguars were 24th last week. Like, what have they done to be 24th? 26th, I do think that they're better than these teams below them. Christian Kirk done for the year with the fractured collarbone. The interesting one to keep an eye on is Brian Thomas, who's just been electric as a rookie receiver, first-round pick. I saw something that said they thought he'd be out 2 or 3 weeks. The Jags are calling it day-to-day with a chest contusion, so we shall see.
New York Giants, after last night, are 25.
Moved them up a couple spots. I thought they came to play. Listen, Ojulari was good. Dexter Lawrence was good. He always is. They are also a team that you would think most weeks are going to give you a competitive performance and have a chance to win like they did last night.
Cleveland Browns, they come in at 24th.
Wow. And I believe they're up 5 spots. Anybody else up 5 spots, Jack?
Philadelphia Eagles, when we get to
Okay,
that.
so we have a tie this week for the biggest upgrade of the week. Like everybody listening or watching should upgrade your bathroom or entry door with West Shore Home. You can get 72 months, 0% interest, plus up to $1,500 off when you visit westshorehome.com/Ross, which is amazing. Almost as amazing as those performances by the Browns and the Eagles. They're tied for my biggest power rankings upgrade this week. For the Browns, the defense has been good all year. They are very clearly a much better offense, better team with Jameis Winston, and you would expect them to be significantly better the rest of the year. Now they'll get some momentum. Now they have some belief. I think they'll be a competitive team the rest of the year. The Eagles, that's back-to-back 20-plus point wins. And Hurts' best performance of the year. The Eagles look like they went from a good team to a very good team this past weekend against the Bengals.
23rd, we've got the Miami Dolphins.
Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, brutal loss. That was obviously a very, very tough loss for the Dolphins. That was one you kind of felt like they needed to have, right? I mean, huge difference between 2-5, 3-4. 2-5, you don't really feel like you're in the mix. 3-4, you feel like you're right there. You're a game below 500. You got your quarterback back. You won a game. Hard to overstate the significance of that game for both the Miami Dolphins, and the Arizona Cardinals.
22nd, Indianapolis Colts.
So very interesting to hear Shane Steichen say after that they are evaluating everything as it relates to the quarterback position and Anthony Richardson after he took himself out for a play against the Texans. Never heard of that, right? I think I mentioned this yesterday, Jack, but it is the coach's job. If you know there's a play where your quarterback is running around like that, it's the coach's job to give the guy a play the next play where he can catch his breath a little bit. But that should never be the case. I've never heard of that in my life, a quarterback taking themselves out, or really any offensive position. Maybe a wide receiver after they run a go route or something. Just unfathomable. Would make me think the Colts are going to make a change because that division feels very winnable if they get better quarterback play like you would think they would with Flacco. Tough situation for Shane Steichen, their head coach, trying to balance the present and the future.
21st is the LA Rams.
So the Rams, that was a huge win for them, obviously against the Vikings. Doesn't look like they're going to trade Kupp or Puka Nacua anymore. Now that they're 3-4, I think the Rams believe, and they got Puka and Cooper Kupp back, I think the Rams believe they can go on a run now the second half of the year and maybe make the playoffs again like they did last year.
Dallas Cowboys at 20.
How about them Cowboys? They are not very good, and their schedule doesn't really get any easier. They got a bad combination right now of not being where they need to be offensively, being banged up defensively, and it's funny because you pay all this money to Dak Prescott, all this money to CeeDee Lamb, and yet they don't really have the team around them to be able to really do much with it. I mean, that's got to be frustrating. You cut those kind of checks to have a team that probably has an uphill climb to even make the playoffs.
19th is the Cincinnati Bengals.
Boy, they dropped a lot. I don't know that they deserve to drop as much as they did, but they lost by 20 points at home. And a lot of these other teams, I think, right now could maybe take the Bengals. That was a disappointing performance for Cincinnati at home. I mean, I guess it was 17-17 late in the third quarter, but then the Eagles just totally shifted into overdrive and pulled away. Burrow's right. If they go 7-2 down the stretch here and get to 10 wins, they probably make the playoffs. But that's asking a lot for a 3-4 team to go 7-2 down the stretch.
18, Seattle Seahawks.
surprisingly inept performance by them at home against the Bills. I mean, I said this yesterday, I'll say it again. I was not expecting that. It was both sides of the ball. It was like just when after the Falcons game I felt good about them and they were 4-3, they come home and lay an unbelievable egg. But they're still about where I thought they'd be at 4-4, maybe even a little bit better, to be honest with you, than I thought they'd be this year.
17th, Arizona Cardinals.
Look at the NFC West, man. Cardinals 4-4, Niners 4-4, Seahawks 4-4, Rams 3-4. That's amazing. See, like Jack, you could have had an awesome stat there. Ross, this is the first time since 1988 that all four teams in the division had the same amount of losses in week 9. That would have been cool. That would have provided value. But no, you'd rather wear some weird fleece that I've never seen before in my life.
Thank you. Halfway mark, Chicago Bears, 16.
That is why you wear it, right? Because it's unique?
It's more so it's incredibly comfortable.
Got it. All right. Well, the Bears' whole situation is incredibly uncomfortable. I would say at this point, I'm more disappointed in Eberflus not admitting that he screwed up the play before the Hail Mary than I am Tyreek Stevenson for the Hail Mary. Tyreek Stevenson is a young kid who got overzealous in the moment. Eberflus, like the whole coaching staff, guys, what are we doing? And they had timeouts. Really, really don't understand that logic whatsoever.
15th, Denver Broncos.
I mean, he literally said the play before didn't matter. Those 15 yards didn't matter. Matt, they mattered a lot. Jane Daniels wouldn't have gotten the ball close to the goal line if it wasn't for those 15 yards. Broncos, boy, love them or hate them, Sean Payton can flat out coach. I mean, for them to be 5-3 right now with a rookie quarterback that I don't think anybody else wanted. You think about how many teams passed up Bo Nix. I mean, nobody else was going to draft him. You know, I mean, 1, 2, 3 didn't want him. The Falcons wanted Michael Penix Jr. over him. I don't think the Vikings wanted him. They wanted J.J. McCarthy. And here, Bo Nix has started every game, and they're 5-3. Tip of the cap to Sean Payton, for real.
14th is the Bucks.
The Bucks, now they got another big game. Who do they play? They play Monday night. Oh, the Chiefs in Kansas City. Yikes. Good luck, Tampa. You're probably going to need it without Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. I mean, they got a good team, but they're just losing too many of these games that were very, very winnable. They're 4-4, and that's the difference between making the playoffs or not.
13th, it's Chargers.
Go, Chargers, go. Dun, 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 dun. San Diego Superchargers. Love the mix right now of the D playing better. Still have the run game, but now Herbert's starting to really get into a rhythm.
12th is Falcons.
Speaking of getting into a rhythm, you know, the offense has been there really the whole year. You know, even with all the additions they made, Jack, I'm just not sure about their defense. You know, they're just not getting any pressure on the quarterback at all.
11th is the 49ers.
Big win for them. Sounds like they're ramping things up with McCaffrey this week as well, which is huge.
Minnesota Vikings start top 10.
The Minnesota Vikings. You know, maybe I'm being a little too harsh on the Vikings dropping them to 10, but it's 2 losses in a row. And now one of their 5 best players, definitely 10 best players, Darisaw, out for the year. That's a significant loss. That was a huge part of their success, was how well they were playing on the offensive line.
9th is Packers.
Dun, 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 dun. Go, Pack, go. So, not a serious injury for Jordan Love. We recognize that. But I think they have their bye the week after this week. So I would think that they would let him sit out. But I also would have thought that they wouldn't bring him back from the ankle injury as fast as they did.
8th, Houston Texans.
So the Texans got a lot of good things going right now. They have got to figure out this pass protection. C.J. Stroud is getting hit left and right, and it's a problem right now.
7th, Steelers.
Super impressed by this team right now, by what Mike Tomlin's done. That said, we all recognized that the first half of their schedule was going to be much, much easier. Now they'll get in the second. But even if they just go like 500 in the second half of their schedule, they're a 10-win plus team and they're making the playoffs again.
6th, Commanders.
The Commanders dropped a spot only because the Eagles and Bills jumped in front of them. Vikings also fell behind them. But the Commanders have a good team too. I mean, obviously they were very fortunate to win that game, and the way things unfolded, down the stretch was not encouraging.
5th is Baltimore Ravens.
I had them 2 last week, dropped them several spots because this is the Ravens over the years. They find a way to lose games they shouldn't lose, and they got some real concerns on defense right now.
4th, as mentioned earlier, the Eagles.
Eagles, Eagles. Kind of already talked about them. They're looking like they're getting on a roll here.
3rd, Buffalo Bills.
Super impressive win for the Bills in Seattle to take control of that game and kind of roll, I would say, throughout. They've now won 3 games in a row again after that mini 2-game slide.
2nd, Detroit Lions.
I am still thoroughly impressed by what this team is able to accomplish really on all sides of the ball. That's like when people say, "Oh, who do you think has a chance to win the Super Bowl?" I mean, I always thought before for this year, but now I especially think the Detroit Lions, because not only is their defense doing good things, and their offense, of course, we all already know about, but now it's the special teams too. Now they got all 3 phases really clicking. That's when you got a real shot.
Ross's number 1 team, which is totally meaningless, but it's fun and will get many of you incredibly annoyed, is...
And number 1, shocker, Kansas City Chiefs.
I'm just telling you, I don't care if they win every game by 1 point and the Lions beat everybody by 70 points. I am not moving the Chiefs off the number 1 spot until they lose a game, because I'll believe someone can beat them in a series, maybe when they lose a game. Love this show. Make sure, hey, tomorrow we got a very, very special guest. I'm going to save that one as a secret, but you'll be excited about it. Other than that, Even Money will be recording a little bit later than normal today. I think we're done here.
Thanks for tuning in to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. Make sure to also check out Even Money, Fantasy Feast, and College Draft, all on the DraftKings Network, YouTube, or subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform.
Shout out myfrontpagestory.com. Talk about killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Probably not an expression people use anymore, huh? It's probably not one. But what's the substitute for that, Jack? Do you know?
I still use 2 birds 1 stone.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure there's someone that doesn't like that. At any rate, you can accomplish 2 things at one time by going to myfrontpagestory.com. You can get a loved one or anyone in your life one of the coolest gifts they will ever receive. A professionally written story all about what makes them so special from myfrontpagestory.com. I'm also a fan of backofficescheduler.com, humanheadnyc.com, Sporticulture, and Pizza Boy Brewing.